it goes back to the destiny thing. I made a bargain with it, a long time ago.
Bob Dylan is an iconic maestro whose melodies have reverberated globally, making him a living legend of the music industry. However, beneath all the pomp and splendor of being a top-tier celebrity, his life over the past 8 decades has been marked by many personal triumphs and tribulations. Today, he carries a profound legacy as a music legend and a life tinged with sorrow and loss.
Then you'll ever know about me, ever. I mean, I could tell you, I'm not a folk singer and explain to you why, but you wouldn't really understand.
That has allowed him to appreciate happiness where he finds it. Bob Dylan is now over 83, and how he lives is sad. Join us as we explore his artistic genius, personal struggles, and the enduring impact of his life. Before we go into details about the love life and relationships of Bob Dylan, let's take a quick look at his early life and career. Early life. Bob Dylan, originally named Robert Allen Zimmerman, was born on May 24, 1941, at St. Mary's Hospital in Duluth, Minnesota. He grew up in Hibbing, Minnesota, situated on the Mesabi Range to the west of Lake Superior. Dylan's paternal grandparents, Anna Kyrgyz and Zygmunt Zimmerman, immigrated to the United States from Odessa in the Russian Empire, now Odessa, Ukraine, in response to the anti-Jewish attacks known as the pogroms of 1905. On the other hand, his maternal grandparents, Florence and Ben Stone, were Lithuanian Jews who came to the United States in 1902. According to Dylan, his paternal grandmother's lineage can be traced back to the Kizman district in Kars province, northeastern Turkey. Dylan's parents, Abram Zimmerman and Beatrice Beatty Stone, were members of a small and tightly knit Jewish community. The family resided in Duluth until Dylan reached the age of 6, at which point his father fell ill with polio. This led to a relocation back to his mother's hometown of Hibbing, where they remained for the duration of Dylan's childhood. During this time, Dylan's father and paternal uncles operated a furniture and appliance store. In his formative years, Dylan developed a fondness for radio, initially tuning in to blues and country music stations from Shreveport, Louisiana. As he entered his teenage years, his musical preferences shifted towards rock and roll. During his time at Hibbing High School, Dylan established various musical groups. One of these bands, the Golden Chords, specialized in covering songs by famous artists such as Little Richard and Elvis Presley. Their performance of Danny and the Juniors' Rock and Roll Is Here to Stay at a school talent show was so loud, it led to the principal cutting the microphone. In his high school yearbook in 1959, Dylan was noted as Robert Zimmerman to join Little Richard. That same year, under the name Elston Gunnan, he played 2 shows with Bobby V, where he played the piano and provided clapping accompaniment. In September 1959, Dylan relocated to Minneapolis to attend the University of Minnesota. While living at the Sigma Alpha Mu fraternity house, Dylan began performing at the 10 O'Clock Scholar, a coffee house near campus, and became involved in the local Dinkytown folk music scene. His interests shifted from rock and roll to American folk music, as he discussed in a 1985 interview. For me, rock and roll was lacking in depth and seriousness, despite its catchy phrases and energetic rhythms. The genre's songs did not accurately depict real life. Upon exploring folk music, I found it to be more profound and earnest. Folk songs often convey feelings of despair, sadness, triumph, faith in the supernatural, and other deep emotions. During this specific time frame, the individual initiated the use of the name Bob Dylan to identify himself. In his autobiography, he mentioned contemplating the adoption of the surname Dylan until encountering poems by Dylan Thomas, at which point he decided to alter the spelling of his given name. He justified his decision to change his name in a 2004 interview by expressing that individuals are sometimes born into circumstances with incorrect names and parents, and that it is within their right to choose their own identity. In May of 1960, Dylan decided to discontinue his college education after completing his first year. By January 1961, he embarked on a journey to New York City to showcase political talents and pay a visit to his musical inspiration, Woody Guthrie, who was battling a serious illness known as Huntington's disease at Greystone Park Psychiatric Hospital. Guthrie had a profound impact on Dylan's artistic development and greatly influenced his early performances. Dylan expressed the profound impact Guthrie had on him by stating, "The songs themselves had the infinite sweep of humanity in them. He was the true voice of the American spirit. I said to myself I was going to be Guthrie's greatest disciple." During his visit to the hospital to see Guthrie, Dylan also formed a close friendship with Guthrie's protege Ramblin' Jack Elliott. Starting from February 1961, Dylan performed at various clubs in Greenwich Village, where he established connections with folk singers like Dave Van Ronk, Fred Neil, Odetta, the new Lost City Ramblers, and Irish musicians, the Clancy Brothers and Tommy Makem. One pivotal moment in Dylan's career occurred in September when the New York Times critic Robert Shelton praised Dylan's performance at Gerde's Folk City in a highly favorable review titled, "Bob Dylan, a distinctive folk song stylist." During this month, Dylan also showcased his harmonica skills on folk singer Carolyn Hester's third album, catching the attention of producer John Hammond, who subsequently signed Dylan to Columbia Records. Dylan's first album, titled Bob Dylan, was released on March 19, 1962, featuring a blend of traditional folk, blues, and gospel songs, along with only two original compositions, Talkin' New York and Song to Woody. Despite limited initial success, the album managed to sell 5,000 copies in its first year, breaking even financially. The major decisions he took in his career helped him improve more in every aspect. Keep watching to find out these decisions. Dylan Journey to Stardom. In August 1962, Dylan changed his name to Bob Dylan and signed a management contract with Albert Grossman. Grossman managed Dylan until 1970 and was known for his confrontational personality. Dylan compared Grossman to Colonel Tom Parker. Tension between Grossman and John Hammond led to Wilson producing several tracks for Dylan's second album without formal credit. Wilson went on to produce the next three albums Dylan recorded. Dylan went to the UK in December 1962 for a TV show directed by Philip Saville. He sang "Blowin' in the Wind" at the end. In London, Dylan performed at folk clubs and learned from UK musicians like Martin Carthy. Dylan's second album, The Freewheelin' Bob Dylan, released in May 1963, showcased his skills as a singer-songwriter. Many songs on the album, like Oxford Town and Blowin' in the Wind, were influenced by Guthrie and Seeger's passion for topical songs. The album's lyrics challenged social and political norms. Blowin' in the Wind took inspiration from a traditional slave song and became a hit for Peter, Paul, and Mary. A Hard Rain's A-Gonna Fall was based on a folk ballad and gained significance during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Both songs marked a new direction in Dylan's songwriting, blending imagery with traditional folk elements. Dylan's topical songs made him more than just a songwriter. Janet Maslin said his songs, in Freewheelin', connected with young Americans concerned about nuclear disarmament and civil rights. The album also had love songs and surreal talking blues. Dylan's humor and originality impressed listeners, including the Beatles. George Harrison called the album incredibly original and wonderful. Dylan's raw singing style divided opinions. Joyce Carol Oates described his voice as young and unpolished, but captivating. Some artists like Joan Baez helped popularize Dylan's songs in the early 1960s by covering them. Other musicians who had success with Dylan's songs during that time included the Byrds, Sonny and Cher, the Hollies, and the Turtles. Mixed Up Confusion was Dylan's first single, recorded during the Freewheelin' sessions with a backing band. It was released in December 1962, but quickly withdrawn. Unlike the mostly solo acoustic performances on the album, the single displayed a willingness to experiment with a rockabilly sound. Cameron Crowe described it as a glimpse into a folk artist's mind shifting towards Elvis Presley and Sun Records. Bob Dylan's album. Another Side of Bob Dylan was recorded in a single evening on June 9, 1964, and had a lighter mood. The songs I Shall Be Free No. 10 and Motorcycle Nightmare showed Dylan's humor. Spanish Harlem Incident and To Ramona were love songs, while Black Crow Blues and I Don't Believe You, She Acts Like We Never Have Met, hinted at the rock and roll that would soon be prominent in Dylan's music. It Ain't Me Babe was seen as a rejection of the political role that had been forced on him. Two lengthy songs, Chimes of Freedom and My Back Pages, signaled Dylan's new direction and criticism of his earlier work. In 1964, Dylan shifted from folk to folk rock pop. He changed his style to Carnaby Street fashion. Dylan wore sunglasses, Beatle boots, and colorful shirts. Reporters commented on his wild hair and loud shirts. Dylan began to give playful answers in interviews. He joked about a cowboy horror movie on TV. Dylan said he would play his mother in the movie. In late March 1965, Dylan released the album Bringing It All Back Home, which marked his first recordings with electric instruments produced by Tom Wilson. The first single, Subterranean Homesick Blues, was influenced by Chuck Berry and has been noted for its free association lyrics reminiscent of beat poetry, considered a precursor to rap and hip-hop. The song was accompanied by an early music video during Dylan's 1965 tour of Great Britain, featured in the documentary Don't Look Back by D.A. Pennebaker. Rather than lip-syncing, Dylan creatively depicted the lyrics by dropping cue cards with keywords from the song on the ground, a technique that has since been emulated in various music videos and ads. The second side of Bringing It All Back Home featured 4 long songs with Dylan playing acoustic guitar and harmonica. The Byrds' electric version of Mr. Tambourine Man reached number 1 in the US and UK. It's All Over Now, Baby Blue, and It's All Right Ma, I'm Only Bleeding were significant compositions by Dylan. In 1965, at the Newport Folk Festival, Bob Dylan played his first electric set with a group including Mike Bloomfield on guitar and Al Cooper on organ. Dylan had performed at Newport in 1963 and 1964, but in 1965 he faced both cheering and booing and left the stage after 3 songs. Some say that the boos were from folk fans upset that Dylan had brought an electric guitar. Others suggest that the audience was unhappy with the sound and the short set. Dylan's performance at Newport upset the folk music establishment, drawing criticism from Ewan MacColl in Sing Out magazine. Dylan quickly returned to the studio after the festival to record Positively 4th Street, a song carrying themes of revenge and suspicion towards his former folk music associates. In July 1965, Dylan's single Like a Rolling Stone reached number 2 on the US chart. Rolling Stone ranked it as the greatest song of all time in 2004 and 2011. Bruce Springsteen was impressed by the song's impact. The song was the opening track of Dylan's Highway 61 Revisited album. Most songs on the album were influenced by blues guitar and organ riffs. Desolation Row was an exception, featuring a mix of famous characters. Poet Philip Larkin enjoyed Dylan's Highway 61 Revisited album. Dylan had 2 U.S. concerts with Al Cooper, Harvey Brooks, Robbie Robertson and Levin Helm. The group was heckled at the Forest Hills Tennis Stadium but had a more favorable reception at the Hollywood Bowl. In April and May 1966, Dylan toured Australia and Europe. Each show had two parts. Dylan played solo with acoustic guitar and harmonica in the first half, then played electrically amplified music with the Hawks backing him in the second. Many fans were upset by the contrast and booed at some shows. The tour ended in a confrontation at the Manchester Free Trade Hall on May 17, 1966. A recording of this event was released in 1998 as the Bootleg Series Vol. 4, Bob Dylan Live 1966. During the concert, when a member of the audience yelled, "Judas!" at Dylan for switching to electronic music, Dylan responded by calling the person a liar and told his band to play loud before performing like a rolling stone. During his 1966 tour, Bob Dylan was seen as tired and seemingly on a self-destructive path. Documentary filmmaker D.A. Pennebaker noted Dylan was using to stay alert. In a 1969 interview, Dylan admitted to being on the road for nearly 5 years, using to cope with the demands.
Bob Dylan revealed that the folk rock troubadour battled a addiction in the 60s.
Dylan's career was nothing short of amazing, but his personal life had a big influence on this part. Dylan's relationships and love life. Bob's professional trajectory has been significantly influenced by his relationships, which have played a crucial role in contributing to his overall success. Moreover, Bob Dylan's romantic life has been characterized as one of the most complex and enigmatic in global history. His first substantial relationship was with Suze Rollo during the initial phases of his music career, a time when Dylan and Rollo first encountered each other as he embarked on his musical journey. Suze Ruto, Dylan's girlfriend from the early 1960s, who famously appeared by his side on the cover of the Freewheelin' Bob Dylan, passed away on February 25, 2011, following an extended battle with illness. When their relationship began in 1929, Ruto was merely 17 years old, and she served as a source of inspiration for many of Dylan's early romantic compositions after he relocated to New York City in 1961. Their shared residence on West 4th Street in the beginning of 1962 was a humble abode where they resided together. Dylan noted in his autobiography, Chronicles Volume 1, published in 2004, that Ruto captivated him immediately when they first met backstage during a concert, becoming a muse for several of his early love ballads, including Tomorrow is a Long Time, Don't Think Twice, It's All Right, and Boots of Spanish Leather. The primary factors contributing to Dylan's political awakening were his exposure to Ruth's leftist political beliefs, her involvement in the Congressional Party, and her work with the Congress of Racial Equality. This relationship is often associated with his early love songs, such as Don't Think Twice, It's All Right, which were written during this period. A notable image from this era is the cover of Bob Dylan's album, The Freewheelin' Bob Dylan, which features the two of them walking hand in hand. Their romantic relationship came to an end in late 1963, as Dylan's increasing fame and the pressures it brought resulted in strain on their relationship and ultimately led to their decision to part ways. After the breakup, Ruth remained in New York City. She was an active member of the New York City Youth League in the 1960s and aspired to pursue careers in teaching, painting, and book illustration. In 2009, she published a memoir titled A Freewheel in Time, which focused on Greenwich Village in the 1960s. Echo Hellstrom, Dylan's high school girlfriend, shared his love for music and introduced him to various singers and folk music resources. There is a theory that Dylan's song Girl from the North Country may have been influenced by Echo Hellstrom, but this remains controversial and unproven. Bob Dylan also had a strong romantic and musical partnership with Joan Baez, known as the Queen of Folk at that time. Their relationship, which began in 1961, did not last past 1965, with Dylan suspected to have ended it due to his shift to electronic music, leaving Baez feeling left behind.
The couple split up in the spring of 1965 but remained friends. Dylan would finally apologize for his behavior toward her more than 40 years later.
Despite this, they continued to collaborate on stage and in the studio, remaining close friends throughout their time together. It is speculated that without Joan Baez, Dylan may not have transitioned to electronic music. And without Dylan, Baez may not have achieved the enduring career she has today. Dylan later expressed remorse for his actions and issued an apology for his regrettable behavior during their relationship. However, this apology was not made public until 2009, coinciding with the release of the PBS documentary Joan Baez, How Sweet the Sound. The collaborative partnership between Dylan and Joan Baez commenced in the early 1960s, with one of their initial joint performances being at the Newport Folk Festival in 1963. According to the documentary Don't Look Back by 1965, their romantic involvement had begun to dwindle. Despite this, they continued to collaborate on various musical projects together over the years. During their time together, Dylan and Baez were blessed with 4 children: Jesse, Anna, Samuel, and Jacob. Additionally, Sarah, Baez's daughter from a previous marriage, was also adopted by Dylan. Film projects such as Ronaldo and Clara, directed by Dylan and featuring Sarah in a prominent role, highlighted their creative collaborations. Nevertheless, in 1977, the couple parted ways through divorce, ending their marital union. Sarah, as the mother of some of Dylan's children and a prominent figure in his life during the 1970s, had a lasting impact on Dylan. She was commemorated in several of Dylan's songs, and he expressed admiration for her in a book that he wrote. The period when Dylan became more introspective as both an individual and a musician coincided with his musical expressions about his longing for domestic stability alongside his perpetual restlessness. As problems arose in their marriage due to Dylan's abuse, infidelity, and contentious attitude towards home life, the initial image of a harmonious relationship began to falter. Dylan subsequently married his backup vocalist, Carolyn Dennis, with whom he welcomed a daughter named Desiree Gabrielle Dennis Dylan in 1986. Before the publication of Howard Soons's biography in 2001, the marriage between Dylan and Dennis had remained confidential, but they eventually decided to part ways in 1992. The complex web of Dylan's romantic relationships has been intertwined with his musical odyssey throughout his lifetime, shaping the evolution of his lyrics and music. Drawing inspiration from his personal experiences and emotions tied to these relationships, Dylan's songs often reflect the joys and struggles associated with his personal life, adding layers of intrigue and speculation to his public persona. Among Dylan's relationships, which of them were you interested in more? Let us know in the comments section. Dylan's religion beliefs and spiritual journey. Dylan and his family were members of the close-knit Jewish community in Hibbing, Minnesota during his upbringing. In May 1954, he celebrated his bar mitzvah. In 1971, around his 30th birthday, Dylan traveled to Israel and had an encounter with Rabbi Meir Kahan, the founder of the Jewish Defense League based in New York. In the late 1970s, Dylan underwent a religious conversion to Christianity. In November 1978, with guidance from Mary Alice Artis, Dylan was introduced to the Vineyard School of Discipleship. According to Vineyard pastor Ken Gullickson, Larry Myers, and Paul Emond, visited Dylan's residence to offer spiritual guidance, resulting in Dylan expressing his desire to have Christ in his life and praying to receive the Lord on that day. Between January and March 1979, Dylan participated in Bible study sessions at Vineyard's location in Reseda, California. In 1984, Dylan began to separate himself from the label of being born again. During an interview with Kurt Loder of Rolling Stone, he stated that he has never explicitly claimed to be born again, noting that it is merely a term used by the media. Dylan also shared his belief in a higher power and a future world during the interview. In 1997, during an interview with David Gates of Newsweek, Dylan reiterated his perspectives on spirituality and his belief in a superior power. He stated, My relationship with religion is characterized by a unique perspective. To be bluntly honest, I perceive spirituality and philosophical insights primarily through music. It is within the realm of music that I find profound religious meaning, unlike any other avenue. Dylan has shown his support for the Chabad Lubavitch movement by participating in Jewish religious events, such as his son's bar mitzvahs and services at Hadar HaTorah, a Chabad Lubavitch yeshiva. He made appearances on the Chabad Telethon in 1989 and 1991. Dylan has persisted in including songs from his gospel albums in his live performances, sometimes incorporating traditional religious songs. He has briefly mentioned his religious beliefs, as evidenced in a 2004 interview with 60 Minutes, where he conveyed to Ed Bradley, "The only person you have to think twice about lying to is either yourself or to God." Dylan described his rigorous touring schedule as a commitment he agreed to a long time ago with the chief commander in this realm and the unseen world. In an interview with Jeff Slate from the Wall Street Journal in December 2022, Bob Dylan expressed his continued commitment to his religious beliefs. He discussed his routine of reading scriptures, meditating, praying, and lighting candles in church. Dylan emphasized his belief in concepts such as damnation, salvation, and predestination, citing the significance of texts like the 5 books of Moses, Pauline epistles, and the invocation of the saints. The accident and recovery. Dylan's son has confirmed a significant event in his father's life. In the late 1960s, Dylan had a motorcycle accident. He disappeared from the public eye for months, which happened on July 29, 1966. Bob Dylan was involved in a motorcycle accident while riding his Triumph Tiger 100 near his home in Woodstock, New York. The collision resulted in several fractured vertebrae in Dylan's neck. However, the specific details surrounding the incident have remained unclear, as he didn't give much details. According to his son, Dylan did not receive immediate medical attention as he was not taken to a hospital, and no ambulance was dispatched. This has led to various discussions and speculations about the events that transpired. Biographers of Dylan suggest that following his motorcycle accident, he was able to evade the intensest pressures of his career. Upon recovering from his injuries, Dylan embarked on the creation of a documentary film based on his 1966 tour, which had been produced by D.A. Pennebaker. Nevertheless, ABC Television rejected the initial version of the film, deeming it too complex for the average viewer. Subsequently, Dylan retreated from the public eye in 1967 to record over 100 songs at his Woodstock residence and the neighboring house known as Big Pink, where the future members of the band lived. Some of these songs, initially intended as demos for other artists, eventually became successful hits when covered by Manfred Mann, Julie Driscoll, and the Byrds. In 1975, Columbia Records released a compilation of these recordings known as The Basement Tapes. A later edition, The Basement Tapes Complete, released in 2014, contained previously unreleased tracks recorded by Dylan and his band in 1967, featuring musicians such as Charlie McCoy, Kenny Buttrey, and Pete Drake. In Nashville, Dylan reunited with these musicians in 1967 to produce John Wesley Harding, his follow-up album to The Basement Tapes. The album featured brief compositions inspired by biblical themes and the American West, highlighting Dylan's deep exploration of the Judeo-Christian tradition. A rendition of All Along the Watchtower, included on this album, gained prominence in October 1967. That same year, Dylan mourned the loss of his mentor, Woody Guthrie, at a tribute concert in Carnegie Hall on January 20, 1968. His return to live performances after nearly 20 months featured a more subdued Dylan, accompanied by a backing band. This period marked Dylan's transition to a different musical style, which was evident in his 1969 album Nashville Skyline, where he collaborated with Nashville musicians. The album's singles, Lay Lady Lay and a duet with Johnny Cash, enjoyed commercial success. Dylan's vocal technique also underwent noticeable changes, as noted by critics in Society magazine, who observed an expansion in his vocal range by an octave. Dylan's recent career status and activities as a special guest on the inaugural television program of Johnny Cash in May of 1969, Bob Dylan performed a duet of Girl from the North Country with Cash. Additionally, Dylan rendered solos of I Threw It All Away and Living the Blues on the same show. Despite declining invitations to partake in the nearby Woodstock Festival, Dylan proceeded with his musical endeavors by venturing to England to headline the Isle of Wight Festival on August 31, 1969. Subsequently, in March 2020, Bob Dylan released a 17-minute track named Murder Most Foul on his YouTube channel, which extensively discussed the tragic demise of President John F. Kennedy. This particular recording marked Dylan's initial solo podcast single to achieve top status and reach the pinnacle of Billboard's rock digital song sales chart. Notably, it was also the first single under Dylan's name to feature on a popular music chart when it made its debut on the UK album chart. With the subsequent releases of I Contain Multitudes and False Prophet, Dylan declared that these tracks, along with Murder Most Foul, would comprise a forthcoming double album titled Rough and Rowdy Ways. Following its warm reception, Rough and Rowdy Ways, Dylan's 39th studio album of new compositions since 2012, was released on June 19, 2020, and promptly ascended to the apex of the UK album chart, establishing Dylan as the oldest artist to achieve such an accomplishment with original material. To further cement his legacy, Dylan transferred the entire collection of his songs, alongside their respective copyrights, to the Universal Music Publishing Group in December 2020 for a substantial sum surpassing $300 million. Noteworthy events honoring his 80th birthday in May 2021 included the virtual symposium Dylan 80, featuring contributions from scholars, journalists, and creatives, along with the publication of numerous new biographical and analytical works on Dylan's life and music, such as Shadow Kingdom, the early songs of Bob Dylan. A live stream performance by Dylan titled Shadow Kingdom, which opened on the UK album chart in June 2021, also contributed to his ongoing musical legacy. In September 2021, Dylan continued his bootleg series with the release of Springtime in New York, while in July 2022, a unique rendition of his classic Blowin' in the Wind, produced via an innovative ionic medium, fetched a substantial price at auction. Published in November 2022, Dylan's book, The Philosophy of Modern Song, received acclaim for its insightful content and diverse viewpoints, featuring 66 essays on songs by various artists. Furthermore, the release of Bootleg Series Volumes 16 and 17 presented alternate versions, live recordings, rehearsals, and outtakes from Dylan's extensive catalog. The Ionic original installment of this series, launched alongside the Time Out of Mind sessions 1996 to 1997 in January 2023, was commended for its fresh material and varied perspectives, showcasing music by multiple artists and previously unreleased material. Announced in June 2007, Dylan's music is more than just songs. It's a reflection of his journey, of the choices he made, of the bargain he struck. This series has collectively generated over $29 million in sales. Throughout his life, Bob Dylan encountered numerous challenges. However, he managed to lead a stimulating and gratifying existence. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click the like and subscribe button, and don't forget to click on the video you see right now on your screen for more fascinating stories and insights.